Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I got busy and I didn't see the time. I'm so sorry. Hi, Steve. Thank you for calling me.
Hi, Ranjan.
Hey, Steve.
Nice to see everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Steve, you're getting pretty casual after you turned over the plate.
I think I've earned it, Ranjan. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely, for sure.
Hello, everyone.
And Carter's with us. Hi, Carter.
Yes, Carter is here. Sophia, Gina. Need to make sure my phone is my.
Hello, everybody. Sophia.
Yes.
From down south. Nice to see you, Sophia.
Nice to see you too, Steve. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jenny Parker.
Yay.
All right, sorry for the time. I didn't see it the time when I was doing something else. And
Never happened before, Amelie.
so thank you for waiting for me. Thank you. And I see Scott is here, so awesome. Maybe we can do like a quick tour of who is here. I know Jenny has a very short window to also prepare something. So Jenny, if you want to start, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Jenny Parker. I'm a member of the San Diego Coastal Rotary Club and cat lover, if you can't tell. And I got Emily's invitation, and I know that you guys were focusing on plant-based diet tonight as part of your environmental sustainability group. And I just wanted to say I've been vegan for many years now, and it took a while to kind of get used to the palette of food and things. And one of the things that helped me was a kind of a meal preparedness delivery that happens every week called Purple Carrot. Started getting it a couple of years ago, and I think we get it just about every week because we really like it. I happen to have a bunch of free boxes I'm willing to give away. So the free box is basically 3 meals for 2 people, but it ends up being so much food that it works out to be about 9 meals or so. And it has everything that you need to prepare the meal. So it comes in little packages and just put it together according to the recipe. Most of it's really tasty, and it's allowed us to kind of try out new ways of eating vegan food, different ways to cook tofu and tempeh and beans and spices. And sometimes they throw in packages of things that they just want you to try for free. And even my meat-loving husband likes the food, so it's kind of nice. Likes, not loves, but he likes it well enough to eat it all the time. So anyway, I have 24 boxes that I can give away to people. And if you decide that you want to try one of these boxes, you can, if you'll give me or send me your email, I will let the Purple Carrot know that you're interested. They'll send you a little invitation. And you can input your street address and when you'd like the box to arrive. And then you can actually select from about 9 different choices for that week. So you get not just what they send you, but a couple of different choices, options. The food's pretty good. I like it. I think it's worthwhile trying. And I have 24 boxes to give away for free. So if anybody's interested, send me your email. Okay.
Thank you very much, Jenny. And Jenny has sent me this email this morning, so I can forward it to you also if you are interested. So you will have also Jenny contact directly.
And if anyone has questions about, the whole the deal of, you know, how to get the food and what it tastes like, what it cooks like, things like that, just email me and I'm happy to tell you more. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So maybe Steve, as past district governor, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
No,
I was putting a chat
You-
to Jenny that I'd like to try. So anyway, she's
Okay.
like, so what would you
Okay.
like me to?
No, I
You
just
know-
wanted to go around and before Scott Nelson with our speaker tonight, just give your name and who you are, which club, and that's it.
Okay, I'm Steve Whites and I'm from the Del Mar Solana Beach Club and happy to be part of the committee. How about that?
Good, perfect. Thank
Nice.
you, Steve.
Okay.
Ranjan?
I'm Ron John Lahiri. I'm with the La Jolla Golden Triangle Rotary Club, and I am the president of our environmental committee.
Sophia?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sophia and I'm with the Chula Vista Sunrise Rotary Club. Happy to be here this evening and excited to hear our speakers this evening too. So
Great.
thank you.
Awesome, thank you. John O'Halloran? You are muted, John.
Yes. John O'Halloran, I'm the current president of the Solana Beach Eco Rotary Club and looking forward to the presentations.
Okay, thank you, John. Gina?
I'm Gina Woodard, and I'm also with the Chula Vista Sunrise Rotary, and I'm excited about the challenge.
Awesome, thank you. Carter?
Hello, got me with my mouth full of water. I'm Carter Stafford, past president of the Solana Beach Eco Rotary Club.
Awesome, thank you, Carter. And Mark?
Mark DeAndre, I'm a member of the Solana Beach Eco Rotary Club, and I haven't been on one of these meetings, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, thank you for joining. And we've got, I believe that's George behind SDDBC.
Okay, here we go, bingo. I'm George Hip. I'm with the San Diego Downtown Breakfast Club, and I'm a member of ESRAG, and I'm sort of standing in for the rest of the members of our club. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. All right, thank you, everyone. So it's already 15 minutes after the hour. So I will briefly introduce Scott. So Scott Nelson, I met him through ESRAG and the task force with drawdown and the climate change. So Scott is a lot involved with the plant-rich diet challenge, but also the task force that is also within, and has also been a lot involved with the task force I'm chairing with ESRAG about food waste. So I won't tell much about you, Scott. I'm pretty sure you can do a better job at it than me. But it's always a pleasure to hear you, and I look forward to hearing your presentation. So let's share the screen, and you can have the floor.
You have given me the floor, Emily.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And it's so great to be with all of you. Let me see if I can figure out my technology here. And I'll just let you know that this is the third time today that I have given this exact presentation. And so I'm not I'm not well spent yet. I did go, so I traveled 50 miles south of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was in person at the Toledo, Ohio Rotary Club, and I gave this presentation there. And then just 2 hours ago, I was at the Boston Rotaract Club, and I gave this presentation there. So let me see if I can switch over to the slides here. Do you see that okay?
It's coming. Yes, perfect.
Okay. And actually, you'll see the names Andrea Wotan and Anne-Marie Mahunder on the bottom of your screen. They put together a combined presentation for RCAT, which is the Rotary Climate Action Team, headed by John Mathers, past president of the San Francisco Rotary Club. And so if you want to see kind of the full presentation, I'm giving about half of that presentation today. And Andrea Wotan actually put this all together. So I'm really just delivering it to you. Anne-Marie has a whole other section on oceans, animal agriculture from oceans. That's really fascinating as well. So if you go to the RCAT website, you can actually look for the recording of that presentation and hear the whole thing. So I am Scott Nelson, and thank you, Emily, for that introduction. I am grateful to have the opportunity to share with you why plant-rich diets are such a powerful yet largely untapped solution to addressing climate change and protecting the environment. And the beauty of plant-rich diet solution is that we can start today. This is a planetary solution that is entirely in our hands as consumers. It doesn't require political will, new technology, trillions of dollars of investment, intense negotiations, or decades of implementation. All it takes is a conscious decision by those of us who don't face food insecurity, so especially those of us living in wealthier nations, to eat more plants and fewer animals. And I do appreciate Jenny's comment about the transition, because there always is a transition. I went through mine and it was about 30 years ago, so I've been at this for a little while. And more great news is that plant-rich diets will improve our health and save us money. Research has demonstrated that plant-rich dietary patterns can prevent and sometimes even reverse chronic diseases and are generally less expensive than meat-heavy diets. Now, as you listen to the presentation today, and you learn about how the world's high consumption of meat, dairy, eggs, and fish is harming our planet, please keep in mind that all we have to do to halt and reverse the devastation is to eat fewer of these foods. This one step is extraordinarily powerful, especially if we all do it together.
Scott? Oh. Okay.
Okay. Now, I invite you to fasten your seatbelts because we've got an action-packed agenda for you today. We'll discuss how plant-rich diets can address climate change, protect the terrestrial environment, revitalize our oceans. It's actually a different part of the presentation that I'm not doing today. We'll share sustainable eating strategies, positive impacts on human health, and inviting you to join us for our Global 15 Plant-Rich Diet Challenge that started on Friday, October 1st. And I did put a link in the chat box for you to sign up, so you can do that at any point. And last, we'll give you some calls to action. So as we continue, I'd like to define what we mean by a plant-rich diet. It is any dietary pattern that consists mostly of plant foods, including vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, but optionally can also include a small amount of meat, dairy, eggs, and fish. The key is that plants do need to become the new main course. The plate depicted here was published by Eat Lancet Commission in 2019. This commission brought together 37 scientists from 16 countries to determine the dietary pattern that would be optimal for both human health and environmental sustainability. And this plate reflects the dietary pattern that accomplishes both of those goals simultaneously. While some people might think that when you adopt a plant-rich diet, you'll eat nothing but boring salads for the rest of your life, nothing could be further from the truth. And Jenny has an offer for you. Look at all of these delicious and colorful dishes. Plant-rich eating offers an endless, literally, variety of flavors, ingredients, herbs, and spices from around the world that accommodates every cultural taste and preference. And how cool is it to know that you can protect the planet simply by eating delicious food? Okay, so now that we're all feeling a little hungry, or maybe you just got done with dinner, let's jump into climate change. Due to the severity of the climate crisis, I'll spend most of my time today exploring the relationship between animal agriculture and climate change. On August the 9th, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC, told us that unless there are immediate, rapid, and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, achieving our climate goals will be beyond reach. While a temperature rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius sometime within the next 2 decades is essentially locked in, we do have a short window to avoid locking in climate catastrophe. And we really need to take advantage of this window, because what we're hearing is that planetary warming above 1.5 degrees Celsius will mean much more vicious floods, heat waves, worsening droughts, greater sea level rise, etc. And what we don't often talk about, but which is extremely important, is that changes in rainfall and hotter temperatures may make it more difficult for us to grow food, putting a third of global food production at risk. The IPCC made it clear that now is the time to pull out all the stops and reduce all greenhouse gas emissions every single place we can, and that includes the global food system. So here's why. 2 recently published studies, one of which was spearheaded by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, found that the global food system is responsible for about 34%, or 18 gigatons, of global human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. This is more than double the total emissions for the United States. 57% of these emissions come from production of animal-based foods, including livestock feed. 29% comes from the production of plant-based foods, and 14% comes from other utilizations. The food that is responsible for most emissions is beef, accounting for 25% of total food system emissions. Now, this is an incredible opportunity because plant-rich diets offer such a simple and fast way to reduce emissions from animal agriculture. Reducing or eliminating beef alone will have a huge impact. To give you a sense for the magnitude of animal agriculture's emissions, here are a few data points. The top 5 meat and dairy companies combined emit more greenhouse gases than ExxonMobil, Shell, or BP. In fact, if just cows were their own nation, they would be the world's 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, behind China and the United States. This chart helps us understand why that is. It shows us the greenhouse gas emissions for every 100 gram of protein produced of each of these foods. Producing beef emits about 20 times more greenhouse gas emissions than producing comparable plant-based proteins like beans, other pulses, and peas, which you see at the bottom. Producing other products from cows, including dairy herd beef, cheese, and milk, also results in significantly more greenhouse gas emissions than plant-based proteins. Pork and chicken are not off the hook. In fact, they are on the hook, though, since producing them emits about 3 times more greenhouse gases than producing legumes. To put this data into further context, the Natural Resources Defense Council tells us that if every American were to cut out just 1/4 pound of beef per week, the greenhouse gas reduction would be like taking 10 million cars off the road for 1 year. On a global scale, if the 2 billion of us high consumers of meat and dairy cut our consumption by just 40%, we would avoid 168 gigatons of future greenhouse gas emissions, which is equivalent to almost 3 times total global emissions in the year 2019. So you may be starting to see how impactful plant-rich diets can be. Now, you may be wondering where all of these emissions are coming from. So let's break it down. The livestock industry is a leading emitter of all 3 of the top greenhouse gases, including methane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide. Often in the media, we only hear about carbon dioxide. Methane comes directly from livestock animals. It's emitted in burps of ruminants, especially cows, but also sheep, goats, and buffalo, and from manure lagoons on industrialized dairies, pig farms, and cattle feedlots. Nitrous oxide comes primarily from growing feed crops. It's emitted from breakdown of synthetic nitrogen fertilizer used on feed crops and from the decomposition of manure spread on feed crops or left on pastures. Carbon dioxide is released when natural ecosystems like forests and grasslands are converted to pasture for grazing livestock or to crops like soybeans or corn for livestock feed. The carbon that was in the trees, vegetation, and soils gets released into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide also comes from the use of fossil fuels to make fertilizers and pesticides for feed crops and from transporting and processing livestock feed. Let's take a look at each of these gases to really appreciate why global shift to plant-rich diets can be a game changer for our climate. We'll start with methane. The IPCC just told us that fast and drastic cuts to methane are imperative to avoid climate catastrophe. The reason that methane reductions are so important is that methane only lasts about a decade in our atmosphere compared to CO2, which can last hundreds and thousands of years. But if you look at its impact over its short lifespan, methane traps about 85 times more heat than CO2. This is called methane's GWP20, or global warming potential over 20 years. Now, this is bad news because methane is largely responsible for the fast pace of planetary warming. In fact, about 30% of global warming to date is due to methane emissions. But methane actually offers a huge opportunity because if we reduce it now, the atmosphere will respond quickly within a decade or so, and planetary warming will slow down. The leading reviewer for the IPCC report stated that cutting methane is the single biggest and fastest strategy for slowing down warming. Well, I've got really good news for you. As this chart shows, 32% of world's methane comes from livestock. It's the world's second leading source of methane after the fossil fuel industry, which produces 35%. Methane emissions from the 2 industries are about equal. So remember how we said that methane comes directly from livestock animals. If we eat fewer animals starting today, the livestock industry will will start to downsize. When the animals are gone, the methane is gone. It's that simple. There are other techniques being proposed for reducing methane from livestock that are in early stages of deployment or in development. These techniques will play a role in methane reduction. But scaling these techniques will take time and a lot of money, and some may never scale. The thing is, we don't have time to wait. We need to start eliminating methane now, and diet change is an effective way to do exactly that. Slashing methane from both the fossil fuel industry and animal agriculture is imperative. But what about nitrous oxide? Nitrous oxide is considered a climate super pollutant. It traps 298 times more heat in our atmosphere than does CO2. It's also now the world leading ozone depleting emission. It's emitted in smaller quantities than CO2, but packs a walloping punch. Well, again, there's good news here. 53% of nitrous oxide emissions come from animal agriculture. Remember that nitrous oxide results from nitrogen fertilizer and manure used on feed crops. If demand for animal products drops, leading to reductions in the number of livestock animals, we won't need to grow as much livestock feed, and nitrous oxide emissions will likely drop. Not only is this great news for the climate, it's also great news for our water resources, since we'll have less nitrogen fertilizer and manure and fewer pesticides and herbicides washing off feed crops into our waterways. We'll touch on this a little bit more later. Finally, let's take a look at carbon dioxide. Plant-rich diets offer a huge opportunity to cut carbon emissions and facilitate carbon sequestration. Let me explain. Raising animals for food requires an enormous amount of land. In fact, animal agriculture is the largest user of land on the planet, using 83% of the entire world's farmland to graze livestock and grow livestock feed. 34% of global crop production goes to feeding livestock. Here's a great infographic from the Plant-Trition Project. Feeding one person the standard American diet, which is heavy in meat and dairy, requires about 2 football fields worth of land. However, those same 2 football fields can feed 14 people on a mostly plant-based diet. If all 7.8 billion of us on the face of the earth were consuming the standard American diet, we would need at least 2 planet Earths to feed everybody. The enormous need for land means that global livestock industry is the #1 driver of tropical deforestation. And when forests or other natural habitats are burned, cleared, and or tilled to create pasture or grow livestock feed, the tree's vegetation and soils release their vast stores of carbon into the atmosphere, increasing CO2 levels. Not only that, but the ability of newly cleared land to sequester carbon is severely compromised, which means that more and more CO2 remains in our atmosphere as we clear more land. According to a study published in 2020, if the world continues consuming meat as usual, we will pump another 86 gigatons of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere by 2050 from land use change alone. However, if the world were to cut meat consumption by 70%, the pasture and feed crop land that we could theoretically liberate back to nature for restoration of native forests and grasslands could actually sequester 332 gigatons of CO2 by the year 2050. That's close to the remaining carbon budget of 360 gigatons that gives us a 66% chance of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. This sequestration potential would provide us with desperately needed time and wiggle room to roll out green energy without exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. Importantly, the researchers found that even if we liberated all of livestock's land back to nature today, we could still produce more than enough protein for every human living on Earth using the remaining cropland. Ceasing fossil fuel use is fundamental to limiting global warming, but CO2 removal by terrestrial vegetation following plant-rich dietary shifts could substantially contribute to international greenhouse gas reductions. And just imagine the habitat and ecosystems we could restore. Plant-rich diets offer us an almost dreamlike opportunity to take our degraded planet into our arms and bring it back to life. I hope I've conveyed how plant-rich diets can be a game changer for our climate. Under scenario 2, Project Drawdown, an ESRAG partner and research organization that has evaluated the 76 available solutions for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, ranks plant-rich diets as the 4th most powerful solution out of all 76. Plant-rich diets, together with reducing food waste, are the 2 most powerful demand-side solutions for taking a big bite out of climate change. And if you look at, I would encourage you to go to Project Drawdown website and look at scenario 1, because in scenario 1, they have amylase food waste reduction as the #1 solution and plant-rich diets as the #3 solution, with education right in the middle. And I would argue that this is right in Rotary's wheelhouse. I spoke to Toledo Rotary today, and they did a Lake Erie conference in 2015 and 16. I attended their conference in 2016, and Rotary pulled that together because of the harmful algal bloom that shut down their water system in 2014. Amazingly organized conference by Rotary. And they nailed it down that agriculture was the cause, the one and only cause for those harmful algal blooms. Fertilizer, pesticide, and manure runoff from feed crops, together with pollutants from industrialized animal feeding operations and slaughterhouses, are a leading cause of water pollution around the world, causing toxic algal blooms, fish kills, dead zones, and contaminated drinking water. If we reduce our consumption of animal-derived foods, much of this pollution goes away. Plant-rich diets would also go a long way to conserving the precious water the world has left. 75% of fresh water globally is used for crops and livestock. Beef alone accounts for 1/3 of global water footprint of farm animal production. In the US, cattle feed is our largest user of water, consuming 23% of all water nationally, 32% in the drought-stricken Western US, and 55% in the equally drought-stricken Colorado River Basin. And I just saw a CNN article on the dire straits that the Colorado River is in. That's quite an amazingly put together article that just came out yesterday. Most of the water used by the livestock industry is for irrigating livestock feed. If people in the US and globally were to reduce consumption of livestock products, the water currently used to grow animal feed could be conserved or used for more urgent purposes. Next, I've alluded to the fact that animal agriculture is the #1 cause of tropical deforestation and destruction of other habitats around the world, and especially in South America. This is taking a very heavy toll on wildlife. If we switch to eating more plants and fewer animals, we would very likely curtail deforestation and give these guys a good chance to recover. A global shift in consumer demand is the first and most fundamental step to realizing all of these wonderful planet restoring opportunities that we have been talking about. This change will happen even faster, though, if we start providing financial support to farmers to switch from animal agriculture to growing diversified plants like oats, hemp, fava beans, vegetables, etc., and setting aside land for carbon sequestration, biodiversity protection, water restoration, etc. This is an area that needs attention and major financial support, or even we could say a financial shift in agricultural subsidies. At the bottom of this slide are several pioneering organizations, including 3 nonprofits and 2 plant-based food companies, which are already helping farmers to make the switch. They include Agriculture Fairness Alliance, the Rancher Advocacy Program, the Transformation Project, Mayokos Creamery, and Halsa Dairy Free Oat Gurt. And here's a sampling of brave farmers who are making the switch and blazing a new path for other farmers. Some are doing it on their own, and others are working with the organizations listed on the previous slide. These farmers are shifting from producing chickens and cattle to growing hemp, mushrooms, and organic vegetables, from producing dairy to growing oats for oat milk, and from producing goat milk to making vegan cheese. These farmers are excited about the prospects of a new life that is not only more financially rewarding, but also better for their health and emotional well-being. I've discovered how plant-rich diets can powerfully address climate change, and have shared a little bit about how they protect our terrestrial environment. And now I'd like to turn briefly to the human health benefits. One of the greatest things about plant-rich diets is a solution to climate and environmental emergencies is that they're simultaneously one of the most effective ways to improve human health and address the global chronic disease epidemic. Research in nutritional science has demonstrated that diets rich in whole plant foods reduce our risk for chronic diseases like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and even cancer. Plant-rich diets can also improve our health by lowering blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure, and reducing inflammation. A recent study published in June of this year found that plant-rich diets also help to protect against COVID-19. The study found that people who ate a high-quality plant-rich diet were around 10% less likely to develop COVID-19 than those with a low-quality diet, and were 40% less likely to become severely ill if they develop COVID-19. A report published in 2020 by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Health Organization, and other international non-governmental organizations analyzed the potential impact on health if the world were to adopt any of 4 plant-rich dietary patterns, including flexitarian, pescatarian, vegetarian, or vegan. They concluded that compared with what would happen if global diets remained unchanged, A global shift to plant-rich diets would significantly reduce mortality, preventing 12.7 to 13.7 million premature adult deaths in the year 2030. They also projected that a shift to plant-rich diets would reduce diet-related health expenditures, meaning direct and indirect costs from coronary heart disease, stroke, cancer, and type 2 diabetes by an average of 95% worldwide in the year 2030. The authors suggested that the savings in healthcare costs could be invested in lowering the cost of nutritious food. I hope that I've conveyed just how powerful and transformational plant-rich diets can be for our climate, environment, and our health. Now I'd like to invite you to register for the currently ongoing global 15-day plant-rich diet challenge that started on Friday. You can register with the QR code or with the link I put in the chat. During the challenge, you'll receive a starter kit, and it is a very cool thing, and daily email with new plant-rich recipe to enjoy and interesting facts about our diet's impact on the planet and human health, as if I haven't told you enough of that already. You'll also have a fantastic lineup of expert speakers, and I've personally been involved with grabbing the YouTube recordings of the speakers we've had so far and posting them up on YouTube, and they are all up there now. You will want to listen to every single one of them. Our cooking demonstrations have been absolutely fabulous because it can be incredibly simple to produce plant-based meals. You'll hear from scientists, climate and sustainability experts, medical practitioners, an Everest mountaineer, entrepreneurs, a pioneer in rural community empowerment, and plant-rich cooking enthusiasts. And the speakers are engaging in a wide range of topics, from protecting the planet to preventing and reversing chronic disease, to showing the power of plant-rich lifestyles to invigorate our lives and our taste buds. So here's some call to actions. Consider experimenting with a plant-rich diet yourself. Sign up for the challenge. I just urge everybody to do it and get these, the whole thing will be archived, so we'll be able to sort of play this thing perpetually. Consider promoting the challenge in your club or district, and suggest plant-rich meals at your club meetings. The Toledo Club today put on a vegan extravaganza for lunch, and it was like incredible. So on behalf of the Plant-Rich Diet Task Force and myself, I want to thank you for your time today. And thank you as well for all of the amazing work that each of you is doing to protect and restore our planet. And that concludes my prepared remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Scott. It was great. Thank you. I mean, I learned a lot of different facts that, I wasn't aware of. So, I mean, we've got just under 10 minutes before the end of the meeting. For those who are asking for the challenge, the link to the challenge, I put it again in the chat. So it's there. And if there is any questions, please raise your hand.
I have a question here. I'll raise my hand. So, one of the things, I think one of the things that when people talk about a plant-rich diet, it seems to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the plant-rich diet does allow for some consumption of meat, dairy, eggs. And I think, maybe that's a lot of the resistance that people have to switching, is they say, wait, you want me to go vegan and never eat meat again? So is that, is there some way, some percentage or something like that of the farming economy that, could keep sustaining, beef production, dairy, that type of thing, and still be environmentally friendly?
I think the answer to your question is yes, certainly. Cows aren't going away, fish aren't going away. Domesticated animals simply are not going away. The fact that they are the far and a greater biomass than the wild animal population, and that number just keeps going in a really horrible way, is something that we just simply need to reverse. But yeah, by design, we are omnivores. So humans are incredibly adaptive to be able to, subsist and even grow a long, healthy life on a whole variety of dietary plans. So yeah, definitely, I'll tell you a funny story. We were talking to Ian Risley about this, and he said, "You guys don't want to be the vegan Taliban." And that was based on some other comment that we had made in our introductory, to him, to get his wisdom, which he imparted mightily. So yeah, definitely, people need to make their own informed choice. Dietary choices are intensely personal. So we can't go messing around with people's plates. People need to be just educated and make informed choices. That's really where it's at. And like Emily said, there's a whole lot of stuff I've learned since I got on this task force about the environmental impact. So when we give presentations like this, people just say, "Wow, I didn't know that,"
Yeah. And I have subscribed to the challenge, and the challenge, so far it's like a few days, but it's really like breaking down. It's like, try first like with breakfast. And I'm expecting that in a couple of days it will switch to like maybe lunch or dinner. And it's like just to like try. And I believe that the offer that Jenny made about like receiving a box of something to try is a good way as well to try. So yeah, we shouldn't be afraid of at least trying. I guess. Yeah,
make small gradual steps. Small gradual steps over time will lead you to a plant-rich diet. So just ease into it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. And Gina, you have your hands up.
Thanks. That was just a really informative presentation. Thank you so much. I was wondering, I don't know if you saw my comment, are you willing to share the presentation, or can you be a guest presenter? I would love to. We actually learned about this unit in November in my AP Environmental Science class. But I actually learned quite a bit. I stopped eating meat when I was 13. That was almost 40 years ago. And I'm always amazed at the options just within the last 2 years, the options that have popped up. So I see some momentum, and it's nice to see.
Yeah. So are you inviting me to present somewhere?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, if you're available, I would love to.
Well, we are available, so no question about it.
Okay.
I'm not doing 3 presentations a day, so. But yeah, I'm definitely willing to make a live presentation at your Rotary Club. Anybody here, and other members of our team are also willing and capable of doing so.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And I also added the website to the page of Plant-Rich Diet in the chat, so you will also get like lots of videos and information. And it's still a bit in construction, but I believe this page is well furnished.
Well, and Emily hit the record button, so this,
yes,
yeah, maybe you'll put it up on YouTube, and that would be the safest place for it. I can help you if you need that help on that. And then you could replay the video for an audience.
Yes, that's right. That's also a good way of doing it. Yeah. Any other questions?
So
Oh, I
go ahead.
I actually have a quick comment, actually. So Scott, hi, thank you. It's such a great presentation. A lot of great information and facts and percent and statistics. All of that is really great. I did learn a lot. I've been a vegetarian, been back and forth. I've been vegetarian, vegan. I'm going back and forth between the two, but it's been almost 12 years now. And I signed up for the challenge, and I do appreciate how much information is shared. I think if somebody were to try this for the first time or eliminate one of their meat diets out of the week, you know, I think it's very doable. You guys have made it very it's not as intimidating, I think, as people may think, but it is a great start. And I really like the starter kit. There's so much information in that, and just the daily emails that you are able to receive in this challenge has been great, because there's tips and videos and recipes. So it's not just a quick little email. It's jam-packed with a lot of good stuff. So thank you for that.
I'm glad you liked all of that. You know, I was looking at our emails and I'm like saying, wow, there's a lot here.
There is, yeah. But it's all good stuff. I think if somebody were to, you know, I think that's that's challenging for somebody who maybe is trying to approach this for the first time. They don't know where to start, where to begin, or how to do a plant-rich diet. So I think it's a good start.
Yeah, and it's all kind of like recorded in archives, so people can really kind of, you know, take in the information at their own pace.
Great, thank you.
Is that what, yeah, Ranjan?
Oh, yeah. So you know, you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation about that you were sort of focusing or you weren't necessarily focusing on communities which aren't that
So food insecure was the word.
Insecure, yeah. So how do you, I mean, what are your thoughts on, you know, obviously, you know, you've got the rainforest and places like that where people are growing meat as, you know, it's a way of, you know, economic livelihood for them, and you know, a source of food security for them. So what are your thoughts on, you know, ways to help communities like that? You know, I can think in South America or Africa or places like that where, you know, they're heavily reliant, or they're growing more reliant on it as a way of you know, providing nutrition for themselves, but helping them sort of understand the impacts as they go forward.
Yeah, so understanding the kind of the variable impact of, you know, different types of animal sourcing for food, right? It's radically different. The factory farming model is radically different from, you know, somebody, you know, taking down a deer in a forest and using that for food. The calculus is enormously different. So I would encourage you to watch our first video with Salish Rao, because he really talks about the fact that we've got enough food production capacity to feed the world easily. One of the statistic that struck me in the video of Forks Over Knives is that if you simply took the grain that's being fed to cattle every year and fed it to people instead, you could feed, with that grain, you could feed 8.7 billion people. So, and you know, food waste is something that I really need to look further into. But we've observed, Emily and I, that plant-rich diets paired with food waste, they kind of go hand in glove. When you look at that calculation, 16-to-1, it's approximately, you know, you get about, when you feed the plants through an animal, you get about a 16-to-1 return. And it turns out to be a processed food, because you lose all the fiber, you lose all the phytonutrients. it's just a really bad calculation. It's a huge waste, really. And you know, the other thing I would stress is that plant nutrition is nutritionally not only adequate, but it's just far superior to the nutrition you get from consuming animal products. That's a really good question, and I think the solution really needs to fit the region, you know, that we are in on the planet. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Rajan, for the question. It's like, yeah, always like thinking of like how the economic problem around the system. And I believe also there is a lot to count in, like there is a difference between those who rely for their own food and then the fact that they are forced to like go in the industry of cattle production because of no other choices, or so if it's a whole system, and it's, I guess there is a complexity in that. So I'm going to finish on that. I recall Karen Kendrick's-Hen from ESRAG. She was mentioning that at the COP26 that is happening soon now, food systems are going to be a top topic. So maybe there will be a lot to learn, and we will see how it goes and how everything is like discussed among countries and government and organizations. So a lot. We still have a long way to go, but yeah, Rotary can also play a major role in that. And hopefully, as we like discuss it and try, maybe we can also like encourage having plant-rich diet meal at meetings and conferences, whether it's a district, zone, Rotary International, who knows. So yeah, I mean, that's questions that we are discussing on all of our task forces. Yeah, on the table. Well, I see the time. So thank you, Scott, again for presenting. It was great. I will follow up with a summary with a link to this to the meeting if you want to use the recording, and add the email address of Scott if you'd like to contact him, so everyone has his information. And yeah, feel free to ask me any questions, and Scott's question about food system, food waste, plant-rich diet. We will be happy to answer them. So thank you, everyone, and
Great.
have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.